The Fourth Amendment, nor any of the other amendments that comprised the Bill of Rights, were actually developed at the time of writing the Constitution. There was a period of time where the founders argued about these rights and whether or not they should be included in the Constitution. James Madison proposed the Bill of Rights, but it would take, again, some time before there was some agreement. One could argue that the wrongs addressed by the Fourth Amendment directly are contributed to the American Revolution itself. The roots of the Fourth Amendment date back to issues in England in the mid-16th century, but we'll kind of focus on the colonies themselves rather than looking at this from a full perspective of English history. The Fourth Amendment would not have been possible but for the British legal theory which Britons of North America inherited and cherished as their own. So we had a very strong feeling of being British in the 1750s and 1760s. It wasn't like we were rebellious from day one. There was a feeling that we were part of the motherland. The writs of assistance was a type of general warrant, relied upon the King's Customs Office and the Exchequer to ensure the collection of revenue. Officers could search wherever they wanted and seize whatever they wanted, with few exceptions. And a judicial official presented with a writ did not question it. One of the unique characteristics of these writs were that they were valid for 6 months after the death of the sovereign. And that's an important point, which we'll be revisiting in just a second. Parliament authorized the writs in 1662, empowering the Court of the Exchequer to issue a writ to a custom official who, with the assistance of a constable, could enter any house, shop, cellar, warehouse, room, or other place, and in case of resistance to break open doors, chests, trunks, and other packages, and to seize any uncustomed goods. When they were first applied to the colonies in 1696, they were really only applied to Massachusetts and New Hampshire colonies, which were under the jurisdiction of the Court of the Exchequer. The other colonies were either ignored or delayed the issuance of writs indefinitely, or were beyond the reach of the Court of the Exchequer. Now, as I said earlier, the writs of assistance would be in force until 6 months after the passing of the monarch in England. So in 1760, George II passed away, and so the writs of, I think it was 25th of October, and so technically within 6 months of his passing, all the writs that were in existence at that point in time would expire. James Otis, who you can see is a fine-looking young fellow here, argued against the writs of assistance in what was called the Paxton case. Paxton was a customs official, and his argument was that the only legal writ was a special warrant directed to special officers and to search certain houses, especially set forth in the writ may be granted upon oath made by the person who asks for the warrant that he suspects such goods to be concealed in those very places he desires to search. The wording there is very close, if you think about it, very close to where we are with the Fourth Amendment today. Now, interestingly enough, Otis eventually lost the case, but the point was made that we should not have searches and seizures except very specialized and very appointed and designated places and persons to be searched. The Townshend Acts of 1767 established a duty on imports into the colonies and reaffirmed those writs of assistance. Now, it's not like the the colonies at that point in time were being good little angels either. There was a lot of smuggling, outright theft of British goods. Things were stolen off of ships, out of storehouses. So it wasn't like we were being good little angels. And often when goods were seized by customs officials, the colonists would just go back in and steal it back again. And so it was a repetitive process. And also as likely, the colonists would barricade themselves into their homes and hold off the customs officials and the military until the mobs joined in, and then of course the customs officials and the military would back off and let them have the goods. There was a young attorney present at the hearing of the Paxton case in 1761 named John Adams, and the case and the against the writs of assistance played an important part in John Adams' development as a revolutionary. On the night before the Declaration of Independence, Adams asserted that he considered the argument concerning the writs of assistance as the commencement of the controversy between Great Britain and America. Many of the new states enacted their own versions of the Bill of Rights prior to those amended the Constitution. But James Madison, who had been sort of an opponent to the Bill of Rights, became a strong proponent for them. He's now known historically as the father of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment were proposed in 1789, and because each of the states had to vote on the amendments, they became effective in 1791. So repeating the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath and affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person and things to be seized. Doesn't that echo the arguments that John Otis made in the Paxton case? When you look at the Fourth Amendment in a historical perspective, in fact, if you look at any of the first 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights, you can see from a historical perspective how they were developed. They all had a reflection back into the history around the American Revolution and the period just prior to the American Revolution. But how's the Fourth Amendment used today? What's its significance in the world of compliance and security today? And most importantly, how does the Fourth Amendment influence how we establish our security and compliance programs today?